Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Go Go Loser Ranger, Season 1, Episode 4. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're picking up in the aftermath of last episode. Apparently, it's kind of the same day, because they're gathered together at a room where it's like, yeah, we rarely get together, but Red wants to announce the fact is, hey, so I lost my divine artifact, and he's so like laissez-faire about it, but I guess it's like, well, who can really challenge him on it? Others like, oh man, this is kind of a bad idea, because I think it was even Green being like, wow, at no point did it ever really cross our minds that like over these past like 12 years they would ever like betray us and go against us. Once again, they just thought like, right, we basically demolished them and basically made them part of our partners in all of this, so we never thought they'd ever rise up because they wouldn't be able to do anything against us. We also got an introduction to everyone's kind of right hand, like what is the rank? It's like their junior first ranks or whatever, something like that, because like we end up finding out that's what, I don't know if we knew ahead of time that was Suzukiri's position, but we meet all the other people that are in the same position as her amongst all of the Dragon Keepers, like, you know, right hand people. So get a little peek into the personalities, like Blue's, for example, because Suzukiri was like, yeah, oh, Blue referred to her as Yellow's mistress, but it's like mistress. Everyone here has a real different relationship with their Dragon Keeper counterpart, and his Blue's like junior started like blushing, being like, ooh, and he's almost like, stop acting like that, you idiot. So, but she had to like apologize because it's like, right, you came here late. Because Yellow's like, yeah, she does that all the time. Seems like Yellow might be the most laissez-faire amongst the group, because he's like, it seems like he kind of lets Suzukiri kind of do whatever she wants. It's like, yeah, that's kind of what she does. I don't really worry about it. But once again, they are the R&D department, so maybe that kind of plays into, he presents himself that way, but he's probably like maybe the mad scientist of the group. We don't know yet. But yeah, like Suzukiri had to apologize, and kind of like you could tell like it just irked her nerves. So like, all right, sure, I'm sorry. What was interesting too is that the thing I was kind of confused. Well, I commented on the last episode. I was like, they need their divine artifacts to transform, right? And it's like, it does seem like that's the case. Otherwise, he has to put on the suit and take off the suit. Like, he has an extra, and he has to put it on and take it off. The divine artifact lets you kind of summon it and take it off whenever you want to. But like I said, I thought that was interesting. Like, so you transform, and you left your weapon like literally in a closet amongst like tools and stuff. Like, it was nothing. I was like, the disrespect considering how important it is. But once again, who's going to really challenge you? Who'd be stupid enough to go after one of your divine artifacts? What I thought was interesting, though, was like the Red's right-hand dude who's kind of running his mouth off, complaining about Red should step down. Because it's like, hey, you like severely messed up in this, like losing your divine artifact. It's a precious item in this fight against evil. It's about protecting people, so you should step down. Which I thought was interesting, because Suzukiri immediately was thinking to herself, oh, that's funny for you to talk all that talk considering you're the one that leaked that information. And I'm like, why would he? I mean, maybe it's a thing of maybe the general public had no idea about the divine artifacts and he ran his mouth off about it. Once again, we still don't know what the general public knows about a lot of stuff, like the inner workings of the Rangers and stuff, but or maybe Suzukiri specifically referencing like, you leaked the information like amongst Rangers, so like maybe that's why we as a organization know more about the divine artifacts than we should. Maybe like lower ranked people shouldn't know. Or like I said, maybe it is implying like it was leaked to the general public. But either way, Jin's telling Red to step down. He's like, right, you're 100% right. Normally, like, hey, you've been training so hard, you've proven yourself. The fact of the matter is no one can, you know, it doesn't matter what your rank is. It doesn't necessarily have to fall into a line of succession to determine who becomes, because he's a senior first rank and this is a junior first rank. So it's like, right, it doesn't necessarily have to go succeeding terms. Anyone could technically pull up the mantle if they decide to. But Red wasn't willing to give it up, because he's like, oh, sadly, you're not as strong as me. And he proceeds to kill Jin. It was like, wow. Once again, getting all the boys vibes. I looked it up to confirm it, because I was like, didn't the manga start coming out in 2021? It's like, yes, February of 2021. So I don't know if there was any I don't know if the boys was any influence on this series whatsoever. Because, you know, by then we already had like, maybe season 2 would have been coming out if it hadn't already come out. So I don't know. I'm so curious I don't know. Like, I mean, once again, evil superhero storylines have been around forever. I use The Boys as a point of reference because that's a franchise I'm more familiar with. But also, like, it's one of the biggest ones. Like, because I mean, obviously the comic had been out for years and years, but obviously, like, it got like even more popular because of the TV show. So I don't know if like The Boys played any influence, or is it just any evil superhero storyline has probably been influenced because there've been so many over the years. So. But like I said, just Boys is because so many people made reference. I heard someone who brought this series up using The Boys as a reference. So that's my, like I said, that's my point of reference because of that. So either way, it's just like, and the casualness, once again, covered in blood, just sat back down to eat. It's like, cool, let's dig in. It's like, Jesus. And like, no one does anything. It's like, what can you do? It's like, oh, well. You know, none of the Dragon Keepers are going to get on his case about it. It's like, because one of them tried to be like, yo, stop it. I think it was Green that was like, yo, don't do that. He did it regardless. So, you know, just kind of like, and then like, even like, none of the right-hand people are like disturbed by it. Because I guess it's like, yeah, he like should have saw that coming. That was it. If he was stronger, he could have talked that shit. But he wasn't that guy, so he got God. So, that was interesting. So, aside from that, we catch up with Sakurama. Turns out he's got a bug hidden in that place, so it makes you wonder like how long he had that place bugged. Like, because I don't think him and Suzukiri are not working together, because Suzukiri doesn't know that he knows about like her and Fighter D, which we find out your boy's still alive. I was legitimately thinking he was dead, but I thought something was up the moment Suzukiri went like, not Suzukiri, Sakurama was like paying attention to the video. He's like, I'm gonna place my gamble on this explosion. I'm like, what's that mean? I'm like, are you implying he's still alive? Because even Blue was like, yeah, something's not right. He's like, either he died in the explosion, or the explosion, he either returned to the fortress, which I'll check it out, or he sent his other dude, was it Ikiru, it's like sent him to check the force, because it's like, yeah, maybe the wind could have blown his particles. And lo and behold, it turns out he's still alive, because he luckily was able to survive, because I guess maybe before Blue activated the explosion power of his like divine artifact, he used the explosives from Suzukiri to explode himself, so that explosion took him out. But it was that he had to time it perfectly, but he still walked away from a wound like from the divine artifact, so it still left a hole in his stomach. So I'm like, wow. Like I said, I brought it up last episode. I thought, like, man, are we just switching protagonists? They are meant to look alike. Even though if you look at the intro, it is Fighter D in the intro, which I should also say, like, I haven't brought that up in these past 3 episodes. Well, because we didn't get it the first episode, but we did episode 2 and 3. But, yo, that intro is so good. Just like how, like, this intro itself, but also that, I think that song is a banger, dude. I also really like the outro too, especially just like everyone dancing like that. It's so dope with like the music too. But it's like, either way, I just really, really, really like that opening song. But regardless, I didn't know if that was just supposed to be like a fake out where it's like, oh, that makes you think it's supposed to be Fighter D the entire story, but it's like, nope, it's actually not him. It's someone else picking up, like different protagonists step up to take up the mantle. But it's like, no, it does seem like this is going to be through and through Fighter D's story. Once again, haven't read the manga, so I could end up being proven wrong as we progress through this anime. But either way, Sakurama finds him and is willing to kind of patch him up. And I love this little like bit back and forth they have, especially when Sakurama's like, oh, I want to learn so much about you. And he's like, oh, stop it. He's like, can you make like my face? And he takes his hand and makes his face. He's like, oh, stop it. You're embarrassing me. He's getting all like shy and bashful. Also, I love that bit where it's just like, oh, you're going to assist me. Yeah, right. He's like, oh, assist me as in take care. Because basically, I only know this because of the TV show Shogun. I think the definition he was thinking of was the first definition was like basically you behead someone so they're not in pain. It's the, like I said, the thing I learned from Shogun is like, yeah, when you're committing seppuku, you gut yourself and you have a second to behead you so you don't have to die an extremely excruciating death. So that's what he was thinking of, like, oh, you're trying to behead me. He's like, oh, the second definition of, oh, you're going to help me. Like, yeah, so either way, kind of gets patched up. And we also learn a little bit more about Sakurama, that his dad and the mom seem to be part of some kind of cult. I don't know if they were just like straight up a religious cult or whether it was just a It seemed like a religious cult, but it could have just been like, because they did say God, but that can mean anything. That doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, they're like one specific religion, accepted religion. They might be just like a cult religion type of thing. I don't know. Um, but yeah, like when like his dad kind of taught him like the circle of life of like every life is precious. So like, hey, we have to save this kitten. He wanted to save this kitten from crows, but then it's like, no, don't do that. Like the crows, they need, or the ravens or whatever, they need to survive too. So it's like, yeah, that's the thing of like, it's just a natural circle of order. Every life is equal and precious. Sadly, that's not the case. It should be, but that's just not how it works. That's very idealistic and naive. Coming from an idealistic and naive person myself. But yeah, because like the moment the aliens came, they came from the perspective of, well, maybe these aliens are here to correct some bad behavior of humans. So it's like interesting. So that was their perspective. But their daughter, she's a little older, so she doesn't fully buy into her parents' BS. She tried to tell her brother, like, because he's like, oh, dad doesn't like you watching the Dragon Keepers because of the violence. And it's like, so, but he's like, nah, but the Dragon Keepers are cool. It's like, oh, so you're saying dad is wrong? And he was like, no, not necessarily. So she's like, oh, so you're saying dad is right? And he's like, well, of course. He never questioned his parents. He believed them. I mean, it makes a lot of sense to when you're a kid, and she even said, you're too young to really understand this, that they're like, when you get older, realize, hey, my parents weren't that right about this. They were equipped, the knowledge they had or their perspective and their experience has influenced them, just like your experience has influenced you. But it is also the thing of nurture of, you will as a kid adopt whatever your parents believe, whether there's their habits or beliefs or whatever. You're more likely until you get older and kind of go out there, like, because it makes you wonder, was Sakurama's sister always like, was she very much in his shoes until she got a little older and realized, like, I don't have to believe in everything my parents believe, and I don't have to think they're right about everything, because they're not. I'm curious about that. But yeah, like he was upset because it's so interesting. He was pissed at the Dragon Keepers of like, yeah, that's the reason why the monsters are attacking, is because we are showing such force towards them, so they're responding in kind. It's like, you can be like, hey, let's at least hold a belief that the monsters are on our side, but let's also be prepared just in case they turn out to be evil. It's that thing of, we don't know, chicken or the egg, like who attacked first. Fighter D's like, our mission was world domination, so they came with bad intent, but it's like, who struck first? Was it the humans? Was it the aliens? The monsters. It's also interesting to know that obviously the Dragon Keepers were already a thing before, because like even before the aliens arrived, the Dragon Keepers were already like once again, they were already a thing. So maybe they were like a special unit of military, like they were a military unit or something, but now they've expanded and become their own organization. Because I've talked about this in a previous episode too, of not knowing, like, do they have to answer to someone? Like, is there any governmental oversight? Or is it just an organization that's so big it's kind of gotten its own because of that? Hey, you save the world from a monster invasion and it happens daily, yada, 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 or weekly. Then that means like they've kind of gotten their own autonomy, whereas they weren't always autonomous. They had to like answer to someone else until they've grown so big over the past 13 years. But the reason why I was saying, like, oh, it's irony, because he's complaining about violence, but he's the one, Sakurama's dad's the one that broke a remote in half because of, but it's like, yeah, they're believing, like, right, if God would never, like punish us because we've been so righteous and yada, 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 so on and so forth. We've been the faithful, and we have, like, a church meeting where the monster we saw at the end of, like, post-credit scene last episode shows up here, and it proceeds to kill everyone. The only reason why Sakurama is alive is because of his sister. Like, she kept him out of that room when it literally massacred everyone else. And it's like, yeah, see where your faith got you. It's like, once again, it's fine to have faith, but there is some, you should be a little skeptical. So it's like, yeah, like, once again, that all lives are kind of equal. It's like, no, you're bugs to someone else or something else, because we don't know what that thing is. From what we saw, not unless that was supposed to be a flashback, that thing's still around. So I don't know if that's supposed to be one of the bosses that died. Like, maybe it got away and it's been in hiding, licking its wounds this entire time, like I was bringing up last episode, or what. But it seems like 13 years later, well, 12 years later, because they died like after the first year the bosses finally got. But, we don't know how many of them they are, whether this thing is one of them or not. Like I said, it could easily just as be like, this is considering how powerful it is, you would almost assume it's not one of the dusters, like in disguise. You would assume so, but who knows? But yeah, like, Sakurama's sister sacrifice herself, and it's like that was excruciating to watch. It's like, okay, I was like, was she gonna die in the explosion? It's like, no, she's still alive, but some debris has fallen on her and it is crushing her. I was like, oh, please don't make us see this. And her brother got in front of him and her to try to defend her, and we cut away because he's like, I managed to survive that situation. It's like, how did that thing just let you go? We don't know, like, did your sister ever turn out okay or what? Is she still alive? There's so much we don't know about him. I just love the whole thing of, he's like, I want to learn about you. I want you to learn about me. And Dee's like, I don't care about, no, stop. I didn't ask you to tell me your backstory. Okay, you're just going to continue. And now at the end of the story, he's like, that was too freaking long. What are you doing? I was like, I love this. Like, hey, you're not going to force a flashback on me, homie. But yeah, it was interesting. Now it kind of shows you why Sakurama's got the perspective he does. Because he wants to end this war between the humans and the monsters. Because he's like, I don't want death on either side. I want to change things for the better. He's not so blinded that he's going to follow his dad's beliefs. But it's like he found his own beliefs of like, yeah, I want everything to be equal. We should all be equal and kind of like live our lives that way. Like that's true justice in his eyes. Because as a kid, his justice was his dad's perspective on things, which he still adopts some of it, but I don't think he's nearly as blind. But I think there's certain elements to it where you could be like, he still kind of has that blind faith his father did, and well, father and mother did. So once again, you're a kid and something traumatic like that happens, it's going to dictate and affect you in a lot of ways. And we don't know enough about Sakurama to know like all that it's done to affect him. But either way, when it's all said and done, like I said, the character's name is Hibiki or something like that. The blue member that had to come after him like in the forest. And I love that he's just like, oh, please don't make me do this. There's leaves everywhere. And he's not what you expect from a ranger. He's just kind of like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Not necessarily Shikamaru laziness, just more of like, I don't want to do this. It makes me uncomfortable. So Sakurama tried to like get him to like go away so that Fighter D could get away. But yeah, he wasn't buying Sakurama's BS. Like, no. I'm like, okay, don't make a mistake again. Show me where this monster is. And D showed up to help him. Tried to slice Home Dude in half, but his body's too brittle, so it's like, I couldn't do it. So it turns into a whole thing of Home Dude activating his divine artifact, which I immediately was like, wait, he has a divine artifact? I would have assumed that was only for the keepers, which immediately the show answered that. I was like, okay, but yeah, because I remember Suzukiri being like, right, we need the 5 artifacts. Now that they got red, she's like 4 more to go. So I was like, wait, do other members have them? I was like, then I started thinking, well, maybe she's only after the Dragon Keepers divine artifacts because they're the strongest. But it's like, no, like any other divine artifacts are replicas. So I was like, interesting. Because it's like, yeah, it is kind of, it's different shape because the one that Blue has is like a giant lance. Kind of, in fact, it kind of reminds me of, I gotta be careful what name I use. The Steel Maiden, if you've ever played any of the Trails/Kaseki games. It kind of reminds me of, because like I said, I'm very specific about what name I used for her. But the Steel Maiden, like it reminds me of her lance in that regard. So he has that, but this guy has like a bone scythe. And I also like, I was like, because their weapons do look like bones. So I'm like, are they called Dragon Keepers and stuff like that because these are literally from dragon remains or something? Because like, where do these divine artifacts come from? What are they made from? Because they, once again, Suzukiri did say they were made. So, but yeah, Home Dude was slicing and dicing with the scythe, and I love like D just like running everywhere trying to get away from it. I even love that portion where it's like he's in a tree and the tree gets cut in half and the smaller half that's falling away, he's like thinned himself and he's falling with it. I love that whole bit. But little game of hide and seek, he grabs the divine artifact, but it starts burning him. So I don't know if that's all. Well, I was about to say it can't be all artifacts because the one from last episode didn't affect him. Red's didn't. But to be fair, Red's wasn't like activated. What am I thinking of? I was about to say ignited. Well, I was about to say, where did I get the word ignition from? It's Tower of God. Because, like, weapons in that universe have ignitions. Well, there are specific weapons known as ignition weapons. So I was like, right, what was, like, ignited? Because I was about to say, like, it's probably no different from, like, a Zanbakuto in Bleach being, like, going into your... Like, I mean, it's not, like, not fully equatable, but it's like when you're releasing your weapon's power, like, going, like, Bonkai. You know, something of that ilk. But I'm sure, like, ignition weapons in Tower of God are probably a more apt comparison. But Red's weapon wasn't activated, so maybe that's the difference. Whereas, like, this guy's weapon was activated when he fought... D, so maybe that's why. Because he was going on about, like, the kind of the cliche, I think it's funny, getting, like, the hero, the villain perspective of listening to the hero be like, my friends are my power. Hey, don't get it twisted. I love that stuff. Friendship is my power. It's very cliche, shonen-esque stuff, but... Damn it, have always been a fan of it. You know, Luffy and his Nakama, or Sora and his My Friends Are My Power. That's specifically what I always think about. It's like one of my favorite Kingdom Hearts quotes. It's just like, oh, it's so good hearing that for the first time and how they've utilized that over the franchise. I'm going on a massive tangent. I apologize. But yeah, I love stuff like that. But it's so interesting hearing it, you know, from like the villain perspective, hearing him hear the hero say that. Like, yeah, the power of our bonds is what made me this way. But then Home Dude starts melting and I'm like, what is it having the same effect on you? But it seems like it's a special power of his maybe because he starts using the sweat. I guess, like, naturally the weapon heats up after a moment of time, and he started sweating, and he was able to kind of fly those at D like they were bullets. Then I love the whole situation with Sakurama, because you're like, okay, so how is this going? It's like, oh, hell, holding me hostage. You have to hand over your divine artifact, and it's like, okay. And even Home Dude's like, is this a trick? Are they working together? Did they switch places? I was like, is this the real Sakurama, or is that just D creating a... Like, could he even create a fake body to that extent? Like, he can do small transformations to like portions of his body, but like to make a whole other body, would he be able to do that? I was unclear. I was like, that's interesting. So the like Home Dude gives up the weapon because he's like, well, I was going to kill you. You were a great ranger. I had to make the sacrifice. But then it's like, right, if backup comes and they find out I killed a ranger, that's going to be my ass. So, all right, fine. Deactivates his weapon, but then proceeds to attack D. And I love like the most anticlimactic thing of he was backed into a corner. Sakurama comes over and cuts off his head and kicks his body down. And it's like, and especially how that like how anticlimactic it is. The music's playing and then the music cuts, and it's like interesting. And then you see he's missing a hand. I'm like, what? And then you see the dust. I was like, dude, the plays, dude. I was like, wait. Was those two fake bodies? Was that a fake body you just kicked down? Like, is that... But then we find out the Sakurama that's there wearing hoodie is actually D, and the one that fell, got his quote-unquote head cut off, was actually Sakurama. You're like, dude, the freaking red herrings, one after another of, like, subterfuge. It's so good. But this is actually Sakurama's plan. In fact, he cut off his own hand. You're like, yo, he's really about this. He's willing to make that sacrifice. So it's like, right, don't fight this dude. Go pretend to be me and infiltrate the Rangers. And now they kind of have a bet going on themselves of, will D be able to destroy the Rangers first before Sakurama's able to change them for the better, you know? So it's kind of quite the gamble both of them have. There's like a interesting rival friendship that has been born from this. So that's going to be interesting, especially when he eventually runs into Suzukiri again. So obviously I guess she wasn't expecting him to quote unquote die, so she didn't inform him about... I mean, why stress you about things that don't matter right now because you didn't run into anyone with a fake, a replica divine artifact, so there was no point to really bring it up. But yeah, so that's really, really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see where that goes. I actually looked it up because I was curious, like, how many episodes are going to be in this season. It's 12, apparently, just from what I Googled. So we'll see whether that number ends up being accurate or not. But I was reading somewhere it said 12. So we're at a third of the way through the season so far. I'm very excited to see how D's further infiltration, he'll definitely be in a better position. But we saw in the intro, like, all the different faces that D takes, probably going to take over the course of this, because certain people will be able to give him access to certain things. So plus he's going to have Suzukiri on his side. Like, how long before he ends up telling her that he's still alive, or how much is he going to keep that close to the vest? Well, I mean, to be fair, she found out D pretty damn quickly last episode, in episode 2, so there's no telling she won't end up finding him out pretty quickly this time too. So I'm very, very excited to see, continue seeing, for one, where Sakurama goes, and also like what's happening with the stuff on the fortress, because we have not cut back to see what happened there since, like, I think episode 2 is the last time we cut back to, because we didn't cut back last episode. So what's been going on at the fortress post? I mean, once again, they're not going to really look for D. They're like, he left. They're not going to think much of it. I mean, F did get killed, and also Blue visited them this episode, so it might be a thing of they already had to deal with the Dragon Keepers like episode 2, and now they have to deal with it even more now, any repercussions because of D's actions. So we'll ultimately have to wait to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.